For the second video of the career series, we have with us Manjeet Kripalani, the executive director and co-founder of Gateway House. She was the India bureau chief of Businessweek magazine from 1996 to 2009, and in the course of her extensive career in journalism, she has won several awards, including the Gerald Loeb Award, the George Polk Award, Overseas Press Club, and Daniel Pearl Awards. She was the 2006-07 Edward R. Murrow Press Fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations in New York. Her political career spans being the Deputy Press Secretary to Steve Forbes during his first run in 1995-96 as Republican candidate for the US President in New Jersey, to being Press Secretary for the Lok Sabha campaign for independent candidate Meera Sanyal in 2008 and 2014 in Mumbai. She holds 2 bachelor's degrees from Bombay University as well as a master's degree in international affairs from Columbia University in New York. Welcome, Manjeet. Could you tell us a little bit about how you became interested in pursuing a career in international affairs? What were some of the challenges you faced along the way, and if you think that things are any different for students today?
So I didn't actually start out pursuing a career in international affairs. I had an interest in the subject and I studied it, but I hadn't really planned on a career in international affairs. What I did want to have was a background of world affairs and understand each country's foreign policy, its security policy, the geopolitics, its the compulsions of global events and how countries reacted to them, just so that I, as a journalist, and I've been a business journalist really for most of my life, could put a business into a global context. So I didn't start out with international affairs, but when the US was attacked on 9/11, it gave me a chance to relook and rethink about my degree, and I rushed off and looked at all my college books again. Power and Principle by Zbigniew Brzezinski. I remember reading it again and thinking, oh my God, okay, so now I understand the real life implications of the theories that were posted in the book. And again, really, it was extremely helpful. What I had studied was extremely helpful to inform me as a journalist on where countries and within them companies stood in the world, how they competed with each other. And when I became a fellow at the Council of Foreign Relations in 2006-07, the penny dropped. I got it. I realized why I had an education in international affairs, why I had a career as a journalist, why foreign policy, a country's capital and its financial center had to be integrated, and that began the idea for Gateway House.
So, you've had an extensive career in journalism. In your opinion, how do you think journalism has evolved over the last couple of years in India, particularly in the field of international affairs?
Well, journalism is a wonderful career. It allows you to poke your nose into other people's affairs, but to do it based on fact and to do it legitimately. And so you learn a lot. For all my life, I've always thought that I was being paid to learn. And there's nothing more wonderful than that. I haven't really worked in India for a long time in journalism, but I worked as a foreign correspondent in India. And earlier, with Businessweek, the Indian journalists, especially in the business world, were very India focused. They didn't really have a sense of the world, and it was a narrow life. And a narrow covering of affairs. And then when the tech boom took place and India's tech industry, software industry really went global, that's when journalism in India began to go global. And that's when foreign affairs and a country's foreign policy and global affairs began to play a role in the way journalists looked at India and what was going on in India. It suddenly had a connection with the world. Foreign affairs still doesn't play any role in Indian journalism at all. There are a few correspondents who are based out of Delhi, and they have a virtual monopoly over India's coverage of foreign affairs. a lot of it is sort of the world through Delhi's eyes, and that is not the world through India's eyes, nor is it a grand view of the world for India. It does not bring the world to India that much. So I've been disappointed in the coverage of India and the world within world for India by business journalism. It hasn't changed despite the fact that we have a prime minister who is a globetrotter in the best possible way. He has raised India's profile in the world, and he's a foreign policy prime minister. Really, the continuing refrain in the media is really what should be nothing more than a WhatsApp joke, which is, oh, we have a non-resident prime minister. That's really demeaning the office of the prime minister and demeaning the purpose of global affairs and his dedicated purpose to raising India's profile. Because, as you know, India has been in a security jam and in a trough for a long time because there's been such poor reportage of the issues in the region, particularly security issues. The public has not been so aware of the terrible impending strategic and security problems that India has been facing. Maybe it's just as well, because if we did, we'd all be terrified. But Prime Minister Modi has really helped to bring to the world's attention that India has a guardian, and he is it. And he's also attempted to bring foreign investment into India by simply being present and telling people, okay, you have somebody to talk to, and here I am.
What actually inspired you to start an organization like Gateway House? And could you take us through some of the challenges you faced in setting up an independent think tank?
So, as I mentioned, my trip to my year as a fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations in New York really inspired Gateway House. I was very much taken with their emphasis on making business understand foreign policy and foreign policy understand business, and that's really how it was created. And in India too, as you know, business has been leading diplomacy. It was really India's tech industry that built the bridge to Silicon Valley, and from there to Washington, from Delhi to Washington. Had it not been for the massive interaction that Bangalore has with the Valley, we wouldn't have had a détente between Delhi and Washington. So India's business plays a very big role, and it was not being captured by not by the United States, which kept looking at India's engagement as they're taking away my jobs engagement rather than a foreign policy engagement. And looking at the nuclear deal like something unfair that was being given to India rather, again, than a foreign policy engagement, really. As we know, with the nuclear deal now, it's been signed, but there are so many stops and starts to the deal, and now so much water has passed under the bridge since 2006 when the deal was signed that it almost doesn't matter. The real elements of the deal almost don't matter. What really matters is that India and the United States are now allies, in a sense that they just haven't been. So business serves a very important purpose, and to really record that purpose, to study it in a scholarly manner, to make people understand it, Gateway House has been started. Business can help foreign policy become more strategic, and the foreign policy elements of government can help to make Indian business understand India's strategic purpose. If they work together, India is destined to be a great country. The challenges of starting a think tank are enormous. If I knew then, 6 years ago, what I know today, I may never have gotten into this. But at the time, it seemed really simple. And 2008, the attacks in 2008 were very much on everyone's mind. We had many people who were open to the idea of having a foreign policy institution in Bombay. And so I quit my job in 2009 and began Gateway House literally out of the basement in a garage with a desk and a chair. And Neelam used to come and sit on the other side of the desk whenever she came from Delhi. And that's really how we started it. And we started with meetings. Our first meeting was on the anniversary of 9/11, September 11th, 2009. And the first speaker was John Negroponte, and the title was The New World Disorder, Security, Political and Economic. And it was a great way to start the discussion, or start India thinking about the New World Disorder and its place in it. And I hope that 6 years down the line, we have now become more established with our ideas, with more pragmatic ideas. We always bring business and a business solution into our ideas, things that are practical, because foreign policy is great and you can write the policy, but someone has to implement it. And it's not just the foreign ministry, it has to be citizens, it has to be business that makes it real and makes it beneficial.
You have always stressed the importance of projecting the Indian narrative at the global level. How do you think young Indians today can contribute towards that?
Oh, young India is where it's at. This is a new generation. You, young India, are a global generation. You're India's first truly globalized generation. You have no sense of the past, of the partition, and I don't say that in a derogatory way, I say it in the nicest possible way. You've grown up with technology, you think about yourselves differently, and so you are in a position to guide India with a great deal of comfort through the shark-infested global waters. And you have a way of connecting with your peers from around the world. They will hold your hands through this, because young people are usually friends with each other, and they understand each other as a generation more than our generation did, which was really separated. So I think your younger generation has to work towards making the world more globalized, getting India more integrated into the globe, having businesses that cut across borders, using technology, using more equal means. Using India's pharmaceuticals to solve global problems, and using technology to solve the problems of the large mass of mankind. I think your younger generation can do a lot. We don't have to be at war with each other. It doesn't have to be religion versus the rest of the world, or religion versus people. It has to be people for people. And this young generation, you guys are the 99%, and you should walk forward with the power of the 99%, because really the 1% should be able to help you and not hinder you.
And finally, what advice would you give students looking to work in the field of international relations?
I'd say right away, really push your parents, push people you know to have more schools of international relations in India. We have hardly any. Mumbai University offers no courses. Can you imagine? This is the financial center of India, and there are no courses in international affairs. We should have master's degree, PhDs. We need our colleges to add these. It's sad that our young people who are studying foreign policy and policy making overseas come back to India and there are no jobs. You can always come to Gateway House, but this is only, a think tank is only one part of policy making. You need a whole infrastructure. You need to be academics. You need to be part of government. You need to be legislators. You need to be lawyers. You need to study international trade. There are so many things that you can do, and you must push your older generation to help create more colleges, more courses, more engagement, more reporting, more reading, more magazines, more conversations on foreign policy, because that's how you have an aspiration to change the world, and you will not be disappointed.
Thank you for taking the time out to speak with us, Manjeet.
Thank you very much.
If you have any comments or suggestions, please post them in the comments below. Thank you.